Now regarding the speech API, the reason I chose that, or reason I even came up to that, is because as a pet project I'm working on this unified interface for all the gadgets that I've gathered at home. So I have the Philips Hue and the Lifix lamps and the Vimo switches and net thermometer, weather station, which is outside, that also connected to the Wi-Fi. All these things around the house, and they all have their own apps, and I just got fed up with that. So I started building this thing, but that's not my presentation topic. But one thing I wanted to add was that it should tell me its status when I pass it in the morning, say. It should tell me how the weather is today, and the forecast will be, and if I have anything to do. Of course, it assumes that I connect all those things, but let's say I did. So I was like, okay, I want my application to somehow talk. So how do they do that in JavaScript? How do they do that in front-end development? And of course, everybody is seeing this. So Google's definitely doing it nowadays everywhere. The little microphone pops up just about any place you look. So I started looking into that, and that's how I came upon this web speech API, which is based on two separate APIs or features. Speech synthesis, which is of course the talking part, and that's the one I was really interested in, and speech recognition. And that's about all the slides I have. What was I going to say? Of course, to make the browser talk to you, you need this thing called Utterance, which has nothing to do with utters, but it is what it's called when it's going to say something to you. So let's say that will be what we'd like to hear back. So next thing, we need this wonderful Utterance, which is hidden under I have notes, that's useful. Speech synthesis Utterance, and it's available in unfortunately only Canary of Chrome, but it is available in iOS, strangely. So you can actually make your iOS speak in the browser anytime you want. And we pass in our little string of welcome, blah, 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 sorry. I'm running a bit dry mouth now, obviously. So we have our Utterance. Let's see what that's actually capable of. There we go. Our Utterance has some properties. Some are obvious, like pitch, rate, and volume. Other ones, like language, or you can guess what it will do, but it will actually change the accent, the language it will try to read your text in, sometimes even the voice. You have some event listeners. Most of them are, again, obvious, but the one I'd like to point out is on boundary. What that should give you, unfortunately it doesn't do it in Chrome, but what that should give you is that it will give you an event every time there's a break in what it's reading out. So you could actually have text displayed while it's reading it word by word. Unfortunately it doesn't work in Chrome, so I can't show you that part, but that's how it should work according to the specification. And there's another interesting thing down there called voice. For that, we'll look at how to... Yeah, we'll look at voices in a second. Let's just make it talk, right? That's what we're here for. So, no. Speech synthesis dot speak. And now we pass in our beautiful Utterance. And hopefully...
Good evening. I hope you like the sound of my voice.
Hooray! I'm done. I mean, you gotta stop on top. That's all I had for tonight. So now you can, of course, play with things. I found that most voices, unfortunately, including the default ones, don't really change anything when you play with pitch or rate. I guess it has something to do with the synthesizer that's behind, but those actually come from the browser, these default ones. There's actually other voices that come from the OS underneath. So they are OS specific. So you have to look at what you want to play with. But the browser ones don't seem to be very temperable as far as customizing them with pitches and rates. So let's see what other voices we have. Speech synthesis dot. Oh yeah, it's not there. But it is. Yeah, it should be there. My bad. It's get voices, obviously. Now let's save that in a variable, since we might need that later. So voices, what do we have on this OS? Quite a few. Luckily, it has some useful description there as well, so we don't only get random voice URIs, but we can actually see what they are. So we have an American English voice, a British English female and male voice, then we get into some other nationalities, and I can go on and on. Now I go somewhere halfway. If you look at it, it says local service or not. Actually, it seems to be referring to whether it's OS or the browser. So all of these are so far inside Chrome itself. But if we go halfway down here, I don't know who's familiar with the OS X very much, but then you should recognize the famous cellos, for example, that used to be used in some weird songs even, and some very odd places. But that's an OS X voice that we can use to make our browser talk to us. So let's take our utterance and change the voice that's in it. What shall we listen to? How about reading it in British English? Was that too? No. Yeah.
Good evening. I hope you like the sound of my voice.
Sounding all posh already, aren't we? Awesome stuff. But you can even go funnier. At least I found it funny personally when it's talking English with another country's dialect it reminds you of. You want French? Which one is that? It should be... yes, it will be French.
Good evening.
I'm not trying to pick on anyone, but you know, it does sound like certain people we know, maybe. I don't know. Or another favorite of mine was, what was it? 9, was it? No. Was it 7? Yeah, that sounds funny, I think. For example, I think it's wonderful. So you can actually create a dialogue between different nationalities and play it all out in here. And I mean, that's basically all there is to making your browser speak. So it is a lightning talk that I'm doing, and that was the half. Now we're getting to the other half. So let's make it listen to us. Now, I don't know if anybody spotted that I'm on Google's search page, and we actually are on HTTPS, and there's an important part of that, and that is that HTTPS will make the browser not ask me for a permission to have my JavaScript start recording or listening. Because if you're not on HTTPS, then every time you want to run this recognition method, there'll be a pop-up on the top, and it'll ask you to say, yes, it's allowed, yes, it's allowed, yes, it's allowed. And since I would like this to be a sort of a fluent presentation, yeah, we're on HTTPS, so that's avoided. So what we need to do this is a WebKit speech recognizer, whatever it's called. There we go. So let's see what that gives us. We have these properties. Now the interesting ones, besides of course all the events, are the ones that you might not be familiar right off the bat, and that's continuous, which by default is false. What that does for us is if it's false, you start it to start listening, you say something, it'll wait until you say something. You'll say something, and as soon as you take a break, it will stop listening. So that was it. Continuous will obviously do the opposite. It will listen until you make it stop, which is useful in case you have more than just like an input field to fill. If you want to do commands or continuous monitoring of the user, then you want to do continuous. Another important one, and that really decides, or that really depends on how you're planning to use recognition, is the interim results. Off or false means that it will not show you its guesses. It will just show you when it's sure, well, relatively sure of what you said. If you have interim results turned on or set to true, then it will actually show you all the, as soon as it recognizes one word, even if it's completely wrong, it will give it to you, let you handle it yourself. Now you might think, yeah, why would I ever want that? Well, in case you're controlling, for example, a drone with it, And you're telling up, 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 down, down, left, right. You want it to react as fast as possible. You don't want it to think for a second until it's sure that you said, don't hit the wall. Back, 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 too late, crash. So that's why you want this. Also, if you're controlling anything practically, you want in between results, anything, anywhere where you want instant feedback or games especially. Anything else that's important in there? Not really. Now with this one, since it's not gonna give us any feedback unless I specifically listen for it, so we need to handle the onResult event, and let's see how will I handle the pressure of you guys all watching while I'm typing. Yes, so it is a regular event with all the regular stuff that events have, which we don't really care for in this case. What we really want is the results of the speech recognition, and that's inside the results. Yeah, one more. Yes, do I have enough of them? Yeah. Since I would like to make it readable, does that look okay? So let's see if it works. And then we just start it. Now I didn't set it to continuous, should I? Nah, just a short test. The light is blinking in red on top. Microphone check 1, 2. Hey! What a night! Ridiculously awesome. Yeah, cool. But since it was, I didn't set continuously to true, that was it. Yeah, and well, how you know if it's the final, so if we turned on the interim results, then we get all the guesses in between. But we always have this is final property set, so we can tell if it is the final according to the recognition software or not. Also, if you have the interim results turned on, which I will turn on since it is more interesting that way, rather than just talking about it. There we go. Is anybody there? There you go. So, and then somewhere down the line, it actually figured out, yes, that is exactly what I said. But as you can see, it starts off with very little confidence in itself. And then it slowly increases and figures out, yeah, according to grammar rules and all sorts of other things that it verifies, it is most likely what I meant to say. And sneaky ones of you might have noticed that there's a grammars property up there. Now, unfortunately, the spec is still being worked on in that perspective, that matter, so I can't tell you anything more about that yet. Browsers are figuring it out, but the point of that is that you can actually weigh things if you need to. I'm not exactly a linguist, so I can't tell you why you would want to do that, but in case you want to influence how it judges things, then you can. Yeah?
Is it the browser or Google server that translates?
This is JavaScript, so this is purely in the browser. This is not talking to somebody in the back. That's why I like it. That's actually one of the things that I thought of that would be awesome for, let's say, any place where net is expensive. You could use this to communicate with someone basically verbally, while in between all your passing is characters. So it would be cheapest in the highest, priciest lands, and you can still talk to somebody in any other language, basically. So you just put a Google Translate in the middle, and I'm talking Hungarian, you're talking Swedish, and we're getting along well, relatively. With the errors that come along with this, and sometimes the confidence goes down, but you get it. Funny thing I noticed.
The Babelfish in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy will be written in JavaScript.
Oh yeah, will be. If anybody checked out the demo that Patrick posted, it actually contains something like that already. One thing I noticed, and that's actually not mentioned in the spec, is that it has I'm a developer. I was writing code. Then I said, shit, I screwed that up, fuck. That's what happens. And nowhere did it say it's going to do that, but it does that. Yeah. It's not very strict. Some things actually go through. But no, it wasn't in the spec, so I didn't see anywhere that it has a profanity filter, but it clearly does. Yeah.
Have you tried swearing in Hungarian?
Yeah, and those. Well, actually, there it's much more flexible. Very, very strong things don't go through, but most do. I don't know any strong enough words in Swedish to demonstrate. The ones I did know, they went through no problem. And guess what? I am done with that part of the demo. All I have left is not a demo, sorry, that was actually the coding part. How do I get this to full screen when it's not full screen? There we go. And I did want to use all these APIs to create something of my own, so I did this.
Knock knock.
Who's there?
I heard.
I heard who?
I heard Lab 55 is one awesome user group. Thank you for listening.
Any questions?